The sound of fabric tearing cut through the silence like a blade. Maya Thompson stood in the center of Murphy's tavern, her bare back exposed under the harsh yellow lights. The Delta Force tattoo etched across her skin, stopping every breath in the room. Rex Morrison's knife gleamed in his trembling hand, his face twisted from arrogance to something else entirely. Fear. The air hung thick with tension. 30 pairs of eyes locked on the black woman who just shattered their understanding of power. But to understand why a single tattoo could freeze an entire bar full of hardened thugs, we need to go back 6 months to when Maya first walked through these doors, carrying secrets that would change everything. Maya Thompson polished another glass. With an almost ritualistic steadiness, each swipe of the cloth deliberate as if cleansing away memories that refused to fade. Her motions were more than the casual habits of a bartender. They carried the exacting weight of someone trained to dismantle weapons and rebuild them in silence, where every detail could mean life or death. Every half-minute her gaze drifted. Methodically across the tavern, first the exits, then the restless hands clutching drinks, then the shifting expressions on faces lit by dim bulbs. The routine was no accident. It was an instinct forged in lands where hesitation left bodies buried. At 34, she stood 5'6", her lean frame easily dismissed by those who measured strength only in size. Yet her stance betrayed discipline. Always near a wall, always with her fingers testing the heft and balance of whatever object she touched, whether glass or blade. From the register, Murphy O'Brien studied her in silence. The grizzled Vietnam veteran recognized the quiet that lived in warriors, the silence too sharp, too heavy for ordinary life. 6 months earlier, he'd hired her with no questions, trusting the language of scars over explanations. Murphy's tavern was no palace. The cracked wood, worn leather, and jukebox forever repeating the same tired songs painted a picture of endurance rather than charm. But for Maya, the upstairs room had become sanctuary, a narrow refuge where walls stood firm when memories broke her down. At 3:17 a.m., like clockwork, nightmares dragged her from sleep. She woke to the phantom pressure of her rifle's sling. Across her shoulder, the bitter stench of burning steel in her lungs. Her fingers would trace the ridge of scar tissue instead of cold metal, and she would force her breath into rhythm with the city's faint hum until the desert withdrew its claws. The seasons turned, yet Maya always worked in long sleeves. Beneath, the fabric lay her hidden history, wounds, ink, and stories too dangerous to show. Patrons soon learned her communication was swift nods and minimal words, her movements efficient and clean, shaped more by discipline than disinterest. Even the act of slicing limes carried an edge that silenced conversations. The blade in her hand controlled not like a tool, but like an extension of muscle memory honed on darker battlefields. Murphy had once murmured to his wife, "That girl's got ghosts." His wife had only nodded, for some spirits march home from wars wearing dog tags, never leaving their carriers in peace. Fridays came with a ritual Maya dreaded. At 8 p.m., the growl of Harleys shook the tavern walls, and fear spread like spilled ink. Couples remembered sudden obligations, drunkards sobered fast, settling tabs without protest. For 3 years, the Steel Wolves Motorcycle Club had ruled. Friday nights. Ever since Rex Morrison had decided Murphy's bar would pay for protection no one had asked for. Murphy counted out $500 with stiff fingers, sealing them in an envelope that had become his penance, as necessary to survival as oxygen. Maya observed in silence, jaw taut, hands steady, knowing survival sometimes meant swallowing defiance. But last week tested her restraint. Rex had dragged Jimmy Chen from his electronics shop, his boots slamming into ribs while his gang jeered and recorded cruelty like entertainment. From the alley, Maya had frozen, every nerve demanding she strike, but she forced herself to vanish into shadows, her silence heavy with shame. That guilt joined her collection of scars. Later that night, while stooping for a broken bottle, her collar shifted to reveal the jagged line etched into her jaw. Kandahar's cruel reminder, usually hidden beneath carefully placed hair. The roar of engines neared again, and her chest tightened. The hyper-awareness that once saved her in Afghanistan now made her tremble as she lined up bottles. Across the room, Murphy's aged hands fumbled with the envelope, his eyes catching hers, a silent recognition shared between soldiers carved from different wars. Yet something was different tonight. A metallic tang clung to the air, sharp as ammunition, warning her instincts to brace. The fragile mask of invisibility she had maintained for months was about to collapse. She didn't know it yet, but already her body understood. Her hands no longer shook. That stillness was dangerous, like the pause before an explosion. Engines thundered as 8 Harleys devoured the parking lot, their riders cloaked in chrome and menace. Rex Morrison led, towering and cruel, his tattoos narrating a history written in violence. He crashed open the tavern door, the sound splintering wood and conversation alike, dragging fear into every corner. His pack, Tommy Bulldog Martinez, and 4 more, followed, suffocating the room with raw intimidation. Rex cracked scarred knuckles, the sound snapping Murphy's resolve. His voice carried a venom sharpened by years without consequence, mocking Murphy as he straddled a chair like a throne, demanding more than survival could provide. Murphy slid the envelope forward, the money bleeding dignity with every bill. But Rex wanted more. His demand for $800 tightened around Murphy like a noose. Murphy's plea was cut short by a slap that rattled the old man's bones. Laughter filled the air as bikers prowled the room, knocking drinks to the ground like marking territory. Rex tipped a beer onto the floor, watching it pool like spilt blood. "Clean it up," he ordered, his gaze sliding toward Maya as she stepped forward with a towel, her presence shielding Murphy. Her motions were fluid, too precise to be mistaken for submission, and Rex's suspicion sharpened. "What's your name, girl?" he sneered, venom dripping between words. The insult he swallowed lingered anyway, tainting the space. Maya's silence spoke louder than defiance. Every gesture deliberate, every second of quiet a choice. Rex pressed his boot down on her hand, crushing it into the floor. "I asked you a question. You deaf as well as dumb?" Still, she endured, muscles coiled, neck tense, saying nothing. Murphy rose despite his split lip, forcing words out like a shield. "Her name's Maya. She just works here, Rex. Leave her out of this." What makes a person with elite military training so dangerous? Their ability to wait, to endure, to choose the perfect moment to strike. But Rex Morrison had never faced a real warrior. Only civilians too scared to fight back. Maya. Rex rolled the name around his mouth like cheap whiskey. Pretty name for Murphy's black. The slur landed like a grenade. But Maya's only reaction was a slight tightening of her jaw. She stood slowly, towel in hand, and met Rex's eyes with a steadiness that made Tommy shift uncomfortably. "Ooh, this one's got some spine," Rex grinned, showing teeth like broken tombstones. "I like that. Makes it more fun when they break." He shoved Murphy again, harder this time, sending the old man crashing into the shelves behind the bar. Glass shattered, whiskey mixed with blood on the floor, and something shifted in Mia's posture. Subtle, but definitive, like a safety being switched off. "That's not how you settle disputes." Her words cut through the tension with sharp clarity. Each syllable crisp and intentional, like commands issued in a combat zone where hesitation could cost lives. For a moment, the room froze in absolute stillness, the weight of her voice rearranging the air itself. Rex's expression flickered, disbelief sliding into derision, then boiling into fury. Did this just tell me how to run my business? His crew tensed, hands inching toward steel hidden beneath leather jackets, creating a circle that felt more like a cage. Maya remained motionless, her eyes steady and unflinching, radiating a calm that only those acquainted with Death's shadow could carry. Rex rose to his full imposing height, attempting to smother her with presence alone. "Do you know who I am?" he roared. But what unfolded next would alter the destiny of Murphy's Tavern forever, turning its quiet walls into an arena where true resilience was measured not by muscle or mob, but by the defiance to stand while others crumbled. Rex lunged forward, pure rage wrapped in 220 pounds of leather and arrogance. He expected fear, maybe screams, but what he met was absence. Maya slipped aside with the ease of water flowing around stone, redirecting his charge into splintered timber. The crash sent a table flying into debris, silencing gasps into fearful awe. The wolves surged forward, but halted when Maya's hand closed around a shattered bottleneck, holding it not like a panicked civilian, but like someone accustomed to turning anything into a weapon. Her voice rang out, commanding as a drill. "Sergeant, stay back." Something within her tone, carved from years of battlefields, made even Tommy hesitate. Rex staggered upright, his pride bleeding faster than any wound, and launched himself again. This time, Maya didn't evade. She met him directly, her body redirecting his assault with precision born of training manuals written in blood. Her elbow drove into the vulnerable point of his solar plexus, her knee slammed into the nerve cluster of his thigh, and suddenly the giant was gasping, off balance, stunned by the impossible. "You little—" Rex snarled, clawing for dominance. His fingers latched onto Maya's shirt, ripping at fabric with brute strength, desperate to regain control. Maya twisted, trying to wrench free, but his grip clung like shackles. Then the cotton tore with a sound that sliced through the chaos, like gunfire. For a breath, time fractured. The tavern lights illuminated Maya's back, unveiling a canvas carved in ink and memory. The tattoo sprawled like a flag of defiance. The unmistakable Delta Force emblem, its sword and lightning bolts, etched with precise artistry. Beneath, bold letters declared her name, rank, and honors. SGT Maya Thompson, Purple Heart recipient, Operation Enduring Freedom, 2019-2022. Dog tags dangled in ink at the base, with never forgotten carved beneath them. A vow and a curse, both. It was not mere decoration. It was a living testament to battles survived and comrades lost. The entire bar suffocated in silence. 30 souls inhaled as one and forgot how to exhale. Even the jukebox faltered between tracks, as if recognizing reverence. Rex's jaw worked uselessly, words strangled in disbelief. Tommy Bulldog Martinez, hardened by 2 tours in Iraq, before choosing the outlaw's road, recognized the insignia instantly, his face drained of color, memories of sand and fire surfacing against his will. A whisper cut through the stillness, trembling but clear. "Holy shit, she's Delta." The name rippled like a shockwave, igniting murmurs. Delta Force, the Army's apex, cloaked in secrecy, forged in impossible missions few civilians even knew existed. And here she was, hidden in plain sight, tending bar while carrying honors no one dared question. But Rex, a man whose entire empire stood on fear and bravado, couldn't comprehend the truth. His pride clawed at denial, twisting into ugly mockery. He sneered, though his tone betrayed cracks. "Oh, this is rich. Murphy's got himself a broken toy soldier. What's the matter, sweetheart? Still hearing the bombs in your skull?" He circled her like carrion circling a wounded lioness, testing for weakness. "Purple Heart, huh?" That means you got hurt. That means you failed. His words dripped poison meant to humiliate. Maya remained still, her back straight, breathing quick but controlled. The insult slid deeper when Rex pressed further. How many of your squad came home zipped in bags because you weren't enough? Do their families know you're wasting away in this wide hole instead of... But Maya had asked herself those very questions night after night for 2 years. She knew their answers, written in scars and sleepless hours. And now, under the tavern's yellow lights, the truth crystallized. A flashback detonated inside her mind without warning. Kandahar, the sky split by fire. The MRAP hurled into the air like a toy, metal shrieking, dust choking every breath. Specialist Williams's scream echoed, leg torn away, blood a river. She dragged him across gravel while bullets cut the night, her own shoulder torn open by hot shrapnel. Stay with me, Williams. Stay with me. Too many injured. Not enough hands. Medevac under fire. Decisions carved from chaos. Choices that haunted her every night since. Ghosts who never stopped whispering. Her hand trembled now, the same tremor that betrayed her PTSD. The curse Rex mistook for weakness. There it is, Rex crooned with a predator's smile, mistaking the quake for collapse. The crazy. What now, hero? Gonna cry? Run like you ran from... But Maya wasn't collapsing. She was hardening, transforming. The tremor ceased like a candle snuffed out, replaced by that eerie stillness soldiers know too well. The silence before thunder, the pause before violence. Her words struck with the weight of folded flags. You know nothing about sacrifice. The tavern shook not with volume, but with gravity. You know nothing about holding the lives of others in your hands, about making decisions that rip your soul apart. She turned fully to him, shedding invisibility, her scars bared without shame. You want to know what this tattoo means? It means I've walked through hell. It means I've paid debts in blood for freedoms you will never value. The crowd stirred, realization washing over them like sunrise breaking after endless night. Murphy pushed himself upright, bloodied but burning with pride. That's enough, Rex. Then another voice rose, an older man in the corner, his Desert Storm cap pulled low. A Marine veteran, his voice cracked but firm. You're talking to a goddamn hero. The dam broke. Patrons found courage in her shadow. She served while you poisoned kids with meth, a woman snapped. Tommy Bulldog shifted, his boots heavy with... His worldview cracked. But Rex's rage had nowhere to go but forward. His hand went to his belt, and suddenly there was a knife in his fist. 6 in of serrated steel that had ended arguments before. I don't give a tithe. What? Uniform she wore, he snarled. In here, I'm the only authority that matters. What happens when unstoppable rage meets immovable courage? Murphy's Tavern was about to find out. The knife flashed toward Mia's throat, but her hands moved faster. Muscle memory forged in life or death seconds half a world away. She deflected Rex's wrist with her left forearm while her right hand snaked around, finding the pressure point. That made his fingers spasm open. The knife clattered to the floor as Maya continued the motion, using Rex's own momentum to flip him over her hip in a textbook throw that would have made her Combives instructor proud. Rex hit the floor hard enough to drive the air from his lungs. And before he could recover, Maya had him in a control hold. Not the brutal choke he deserved, but the measured restraint of a professional. I don't want to hurt anyone, she said, her knee pressing into his spine just enough to keep him immobilized. But I will protect those I care about. That's what soldiers do. The shift inside the tavern was like lightning igniting dry brush. People blinked, stunned, as if a spell of fear had broken at last. Tommy Bulldog Martinez took a step forward, not toward Rex, but against him. With deliberate finality, he nudged the knife farther out of reach, his voice low but absolute. "Stay down, Rex. You've lost." That betrayal fractured the gang's unity. Courage spread through the patrons like a contagion. The Marine veteran rose to his feet first, spine straight and voice steady. Then another stood, a young woman whose brother was still overseas, her defiance carrying weight. One by one, 30 ordinary people formed an unshakable wall of solidarity, shielding Maya and Murphy from the remaining wolves. Murphy, bloodied, but unbowed, raised his voice with pride that hadn't touched him in years. "This is our bar, and she's one of us." The wolves exchanged uneasy glances, their intimidation unraveling in the face of a town no longer afraid. Rex writhed, cursing and thrashing, but Maya's grip was controlled, unyielding, an anchor rather than a weapon. The screech of tires and slam of car doors marked the arrival of flashing lights. Police swarmed, weapons holstered but ready. Detective Sarah Kim strode in at the front, every movement precise, one hand brushing her sidearm as her eyes swept the scene. For over a year she had chased the wolves' crimes, but witnesses always caved, terror shackling their tongues. Tonight was different. Before she even asked, Murphy rasped, "He pulled a knife on her. We all saw it." Nods followed, a chorus of confirmation too unified to ignore. The Marine veteran added with conviction, "Extortion. 500 a month from Murphy, more from the rest of us." Then Tommy stepped forward, betrayal painted across Rex's stunned face. "I'm finished with this," he said. "Detective, I'll tell you everything. The drugs, the payments, where the books are hidden. All of it." Silence crashed heavy, then Rex spat venom. "You rat." But Tommy only shook his head, voice steady. "I followed you because I thought you were strength. But her," he pointed toward Maya, now helping Murphy to a chair. "She showed me what true strength looks like. It's protecting others, even when it breaks you." Two wolves peeled away, muttering their allegiance was over. Kim's body camera captured every word. Murphy's old security system had the entire attack recorded, the knife, the slurs, the assault, and Maya's precise restraint. Evidence piled like a mountain Rex's lawyers could never climb. By dawn, charges stretched high. Hate crimes, extortion, attempted assault with a deadly weapon. His family's money couldn't erase 30 witnesses standing shoulder to shoulder, united in defiance. By midday, social media erupted. The story blazed across timelines. Female Delta Force veteran defends bar from racist biker. Military communities, veterans groups, civil rights advocates, all shared it, elevating Maya into an unexpected symbol. Cameras descended the next morning, but Maya no longer ducked into shadows. She stood before Murphy's tavern in a black tank top, her tattoo shining like armor, and spoke into microphones with unwavering truth. "For 6 months, I hid, believing my scars made me weak. But strength isn't silence. Strength is standing up even when your hands shake." 10 million views in 3 days. Donations surged. Veterans networks reached out. She had become what she never sought, a beacon. But the ripples didn't stop at the headlines. 3 months later, Rex sat caged behind federal bars. His influence shattered, his gang dismantled. Betrayed by his own, abandoned by blood, his empire crumbled into dust. Tommy Martinez had traded leather cuts for grease-stained coveralls, opening an auto shop where every hire was a veteran given another shot at life. Murphy's Tavern, once just a shabby bar clinging to survival, evolved into something sacred, a haven for warriors wrestling unseen wars. Maya led weekly circles, her voice breaking barriers as she spoke of ghosts, guilt, and survival. "I thought hiding kept me safe," she told them one Thursday night, the group listening with raw attention. "But isolation is its own kind of prison." Murphy, fully recovered, had made her his partner in truth and in law. Together, they rebuilt from wreckage, transforming brokenness into sanctuary. Her story traveled further than she imagined. Veterans who had lived in silence reached out, women especially, saying her courage carved light into their darkness. She testified before Congress, shaping policy with raw honesty about female veterans' struggles. She advised the VA, helping craft stronger PTSD programs. Yet through it all, she remained at Murphy's bar, sleeves rolled high, tending drinks and tending souls. "Every time I bear this tattoo," she explained to a documentary crew, "I tell every veteran it's okay to be scarred, it's okay to seek help. What's not okay is surrendering." Her phone buzzed endlessly now. Pleas for aid, speaking invitations, media calls. But she never let the noise drown out the broken warriors who found Murphy's door. 6 months had passed since the night everything changed. Maya Thompson stood once more behind Murphy's bar, though she was not the woman who once hid beneath. Long sleeves. The tavern gleamed with new life, walls repainted, furniture renewed, and a hall of honor lined with photos of veterans who had given everything. Murphy worked at her side, his pride in her unmistakable, calling her the daughter fate had given him. The crowd had changed too, no longer just drinkers, but a family forged from survival and solidarity. Maya's smile came easier now, genuine, as she poured drinks for a table of women veterans who had driven hours just to meet her. Then the bell over the door chimed. A young Asian woman entered, posture taut with discipline despite her plain clothes. She froze at the threshold, scanning exits, tallying occupants. Her stance was familiar, painfully familiar. Maya recognized it instantly, the burden, the vigilance, the 1,000-yard stare of someone who had already seen too much, too. Young, she approached the bar with the careful steps of someone navigating a minefield, her hands visible, non-threatening. "Excuse me." Her voice barely carried over the classic rock, playing softly. "Are you Sergeant Thompson?" Maya set down the glass she was polishing, giving the woman her full attention. "I am. And you don't have to call me Sergeant anymore, just Maya." The relief that flooded the younger woman's face was heartbreaking. "I'm Jessica Chen, Army medic. Just got back from Syria 2 months ago." Jessica's story spilled out in fragments. The convoy ambush, the soldiers she couldn't save, the nightmares that made her afraid to sleep. "I saw your story online," she said, tears threatening. "My mom sent me the article. I've been sitting in my car outside for an hour trying to get the courage to come in." Mia came around the bar, guiding Jessica to a quiet corner booth. "6 months ago, I was hiding from my own shadow," Maya said, sitting across from her. "I thought my scars made me weak, that showing them meant I'd failed somehow." She rolled up her sleeve, revealing shrapnel scars along her forearm. "But these aren't signs of failure. They're proof of battles survived." Jessica's hands trembled as she traced invisible lines along her skin, haunted by memories she couldn't silence. "I keep seeing their faces," she whispered, shame tangled in her voice. Maya reached across the scarred wood between them, her touch steady, her eyes unwavering, a soldier reaching for another still trapped in combat's echo. "They never leave us," Maya said softly, "but we honor them every time we choose to keep going, every time we help someone else fight their own war." Murphy appeared as if summoned by instinct, carrying 2 steaming mugs instead of pints. He slid them across the table, his nod carrying the unspoken bond of one veteran to another before retreating without a word. Maya continued, her voice measured, carrying both command and compassion. "You know what I've learned? Strength isn't about pretending you're fine. It's about letting others see the wounds so they know they aren't fighting alone." She gestured toward the room alive with quiet conversations, a patchwork of veterans and their families bound by shared pain. "Half the people here carry stories like yours. This place is proof you don't need to wear armor every second of the day." Jessica's shoulders dropped slightly, the weight lifting for the first time. My family doesn't understand, she admitted. They want me to go back to who I was, but that version of me died in the desert. Maya's reply was gentle but resolute. You can't return to who you were, but you can move forward, and the path doesn't have to be walked alone. She held Jessica's gaze until the younger woman's breathing steadied. Have you ever considered that the darkest moments can be turned into your greatest weapon? Maya had wrestled with that truth herself, and now she offered it as a gift. What had begun as one act of defiance had grown into something none of them imagined. Murphy's Tavern had transformed into a sanctuary and a movement. Support circles, job fairs, family counseling, a blueprint that spread to a dozen other cities, each guided by Maya's vision. Tommy Martinez visited often, his auto shop thriving with 15 veterans rebuilding their lives. You saved me that night, he confessed once. Not from Rex, but from who I was becoming. Even some who once wore the Wolves' colors now worked community service instead of terrorizing neighborhoods. Change didn't just echo in headlines, it pulsed in the quiet victories. Veterans sleeping through the night, families reunited at dinner tables, survivors stepping forward as mentors. Detective Sarah Kim walked into the bar one evening, not as an officer, but as part of the growing family. Maya, she called, her grin bright. I've got news. The VA approved the grant. Murphy's model is going national. Cheers thundered through the tavern, a sound of triumph louder than any Harley engine. Murphy laid his weathered hand on Maya's shoulder, eyes shining. From one act of courage, Kim continued, you've sparked a national movement. They want you to serve as coordinator. Jessica, still seated close, looked at Maya in awe. You did all this, she breathed. Maya shook her head, voice firm. We did this. Every person who stood instead of hiding, every soul who shared instead of suffering in silence, they're all part of it. The celebration paused only when Maya's phone buzzed. The screen flashed with a number from Washington, D.C. She answered, her voice steady though her hand shook out of old habit. Maya Thompson, came the introduction. This is Senator Patricia Williams. We'd like you to testify before the Armed Services Committee on Improving Veteran Mental Health. Maya exhaled slowly, her answer firm. I'll be there. Murphy raised a glass high. To Maya Thompson, he declared, who taught us strength comes from facing demons, not running from them. The room lifted glasses, but Maya's mind moved beyond the toast. She knew thousands still lived in shadows, still battling in silence. Her war wasn't finished. The battlefield had simply changed. 6 weeks later, Maya stood in Washington, her tattoo visible beneath her blazer like a flag of truth. Every day, 22 veterans end their own lives, she testified, her words reverberating in the chamber. Not because they're weak, but because they're fighting alone. That must end. Behind her sat Murphy, Jessica, Tommy, and others whose lives had been rewritten by the sanctuary of Murphy's Tavern. The committee, so often distracted, leaned in with rare focus as Maya outlined her vision. Safe spaces modeled after the Bai. Tavern, where veterans already gathered, where connection could replace despair. We don't need more studies, she declared. We need courage, understanding, and the honesty to show our scars. Applause broke protocol. The proposal passed without dissent. On her flight home, Maya reflected on the journey. From the night Rex tore her shirt and revealed her past to this moment of national reckoning. The woman who once hid in sleeves was gone. In her place stood someone who understood vulnerability itself could be the greatest strength. Back home, the Ice Tavern thrived. On Thursdays, she still poured drinks, laughed with Murphy, and led circles that healed broken spirits. Because change didn't only happen in marble halls, it happened one night at a time, one story at a time, one trembling hand reaching for Another. Jessica now co-led the support groups, her voice steady as she guided newcomers. Each week brought fresh faces, men and women carrying invisible scars, but leaving lighter than they arrived. And they all discovered hope in a suburban bar where, once, a tattoo had turned fear into silence. The final image lingered like a painting etched in memory. Maya stood behind the bar, her tattoo proud beneath warm lights, surrounded by those she had helped who were now helping others. Above the doorway gleamed a new sign, Murphy's Tavern, Veterans Welcome, Safe Space. No one fights alone. Because revolutions don't always begin with governments or armies. Sometimes they begin with one soul refusing to bury the truth. Her phone buzzed once more. Another veteran in crisis, another chance to turn anguish into purpose. She answered without hesitation. "This is Maya. You're not alone. Let's talk." And the cycle endured, courage rippling outward, shaping futures unseen. For true strength, she knew now, was never in the battles you conquered, but in the warriors you guided back toward the light they thought they'd lost. True strength, she'd learned, wasn't in the battles you won, but in the warriors you helped find their way.